All right. A bunch of 2028 potential Democratic presidential candidates, including many on my list of the top eight for 28, are out and about, many of the governors in Washington. And yesterday, the governor of Illinois gave his State of the State address in which he talked about his vision of America and his vision of his state. Here is J.B. Pritzker, 115, please.
Possible to tally the hours, days, and weeks that our state government has spent chasing news of presidential executive orders, letters, and edicts that read like proclamations from the Lollipop Guild. Here's just one glaring example. The Trump administration, out of the blue, asked the Illinois Department of Transportation to spend crosswalks in Chicago. That was happening while victims of severe storms, flash floods, and tornadoes were waiting months for a response to their requests for FEMA to help their devastated communities. Those requests for relief were then denied by the president, at great cost and pain to the communities affected. But hey, I'm glad someone in Washington is focused on what color our crosswalks get painted.
Hogan, more likely or less likely to be the Democratic nominee than AOC?
Oh, I don't think both are. Is that an answer I can give?
You think they're both close to zero? Is that what you're saying?
I think they're both close to zero, yeah.
Melissa, more likely or less likely to be the Democratic nominee than Kamala Harris?
I think that neither of them will be, but I think less likely than Kamala Harris.
Less likely than Kamala Harris. Okay. Here's Rahm Emanuel in Michigan, asked about whether he might run for president. 120.
And Emanuel says he's now considering a run for president.
I'm evaluating if whether what I offer, actually addresses what I think ails America. And we'll see.
Though a presidential campaign is not set in stone, Emanuel says he plans to continue to show up and fight for the American people.
If I think something has to get done, I will go through a brick wall to get it done. And to me, we are at that moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is my new sleeper candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2028. 118, please.
What Minnesota showed is that when people get organized and have courage and stand together, they can win struggles. And now, that was Minnesota standing up to authoritarianism, and now the ball is in California's court. The people of California can show the people of America, and in fact, people throughout the world, that when we stand together, we can take on the oligarchs and the billionaires.
All right, he's not really my dark horse candidate, but my joke or my point is this is a wide open thing. Karl Rove's column in the Wall Street Journal today, this 117, and Karl is one of the few Republicans who's, along with Hogan, of course, who's a good analyst of the Democrats. Most Republicans don't know anything about the Democratic Party nomination process. His headline, "Can Newsom live down his record? He wouldn't be the only Democratic governor whose state is an economic mess." The headline's about Newsom, but he also talks about Pritzker and goes through the statistics about particularly on the economy and housing and population. Those two guys have plenty to defend regarding their records. Finally, 2028. Here's our friends at Polymarket. What they say what the bettors think is going to be, who the nominee is going to be. Well, I'm having trouble finding the number of that thing. Here it is. Who will the Democrats nominate for president in 2028? Gavin Newsom, 27% chance. All the way down, next, AOC, 8.5%. Larry keeps telling me Kamala Harris is a shoo-in. She's at 6%. John Ossoff, rising star. Maybe he'll be the nominee for all we know. 4.5%. Names not on there. Emanuel, Pritzker, Moore, etc. Melissa. Shapiro, also not on there. Thank you. Melissa, what do you make of the Polymarket wagerers?
We're just so far out right now. It's all like fantasy land, I think. And I've been saying that to you on and off camera for months. I mean, I think that Gavin Newsom would be a terrible general election candidate. I think that he has way too much to defend in his own record. I think that, the blue tents in San Francisco and the number one state of outmigration, number two state of unemployment, number six state in violent crime. There's just too much to unpack, to say nothing of the personal baggage that I think would get a full and fair vetting from, the right-wing press. So I think that I don't see him making it, even though I know that's against what everyone else seems to believe at this point. And I think that what's the most fascinating thing, which continues to play out, is Bernie Sanders going into Gavin's backyard and campaigning for the billionaires tax, which Gavin is against. And so while Gavin Newsom seems to be somebody like, a chameleon who's happy to take any position for whatever audience he's in front of, he has staked out this position against raising taxes on the billionaires, which puts him directly at odds with the far left flank of the party. And so you've got now this dynamic where the civil war that's been brewing under the surface that continues to sort of come out into the open will also be a part of that. So I think that right now it's a total jump ball, and any speculation at this point is way too early.
Hogan.
Yeah, Melissa did something funny there. I do appreciate it. She mentioned all of the horrible things about Gavin Newsom and then said, and I think the right-wing press is not going to let him get away with that. Oh, no. That's going to come out in a Democrat primary where people are stabbing each other trying to get ahead by stepping on their opponent. It will be Democrat on Democrat crime, I think, that sinks Gavin Newsom, not a Republican press. The primary process will, in fact, be brutal, even though I argue that the bench is fairly thin, not deep, on the Democrat side at this point. But Newsom.
But one thing I will say about that is that a lot of the others either have no record to run on or similarly bad records to run on. So that's the place where I feel like
there could be the chance for someone to emerge that has little or no record.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like an AOC, for example. But I think Newsom, the only thing he's missing from a presidential run is an exclamation point at the end of his name. It is so Jeb-ish at this point. It's not
totally
attractive
agree.
on paper, but
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I will make the following 3 points. Number one, I really don't like people coming on the show and saying it's too early. This is what I do for a living, folks, and it's not too early. It is not. The Board of Peace is convening, so we'll keep an eye on there. You see Secretary Rubio, the Vice President's there, Jared Kushner, Mr. Witkoff. They're all, of course, heavily involved in the conversations about what the Board of Peace's first focus is, which is phase 2 of the Gaza. And here you see the president coming in. Those of you watching, listening on the podcast, you're missing out on some good visuals here. So it's kind of an interesting array. We'll dip into this in a second. Anyway, on the Democrat stuff, second, there are no perfect candidates. I keep telling you, I can tell you what's wrong with everybody who eventually won their party's nomination over my entire career. No one can be nominated if all you do is focus on their negatives. And lastly, people who keep saying there's someone else is going to come in the race, there'll be some surprises, but I think we're looking at the major candidates. Let's listen to yeah, go ahead.
They all have fatal flaws. The question is, which one's fatal?
Yeah,
that's the real issue.
Yeah, Donald Trump in 2015 had a lot of fatal flaws, and he became the Republican nominee.
Here's flaws. I don't know how many of them were fatal.
At the time, I'm saying you thought they were fatal. Many people thought they were fatal, and they turned out not to be. They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America. And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.